is going to talk to us today about carbon markets and carbon market regulations, the international negotiating process. You all have various different prior levels of familiarity with the content that we'll cover today. So don't hesitate to interrupt if you're not understanding something or you have a question. We will have time for questions at the end, but just let us know if you need us to stop. Okay, so over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Yeah. Morning. So great to see you all here and great to be here to talk to you. As Catherine said, the more questions you ask, the better. Otherwise, I'll talk you to death. So PowerPoint you to death unless you ask a question. And no question's too simple, or if you don't understand something, I've assumed quite a level of knowledge in order to get through the topic. But so please feel free at any stage to ask what an acronym means, or what I mean in any PowerPoints or any other ideas that come to it. So the reason people are interested in carbon credits in Zambia and Botswana and Angola and Mozambique and the region in Indonesia is largely because there's markets in Singapore and Korea and Europe where they can use these credits. There's also in all these countries great interest in the countries to develop a domestic regime, 5 gigatons. And that fossil fuels, as I said, the main driver is emitting 35 tonnes annually. Well, domestically. So there was additional. The CDM emerged and became a very important. These challenges are very, very complex for all countries, not just the countries here. So every country which is trying to develop these schemes one way or another spends years thinking about it and bumps into enormous...
Me pareceu também que para entrar no mercado de carbono é muito difícil.
So it is my understanding that to be part of the carbon market is very complex and hard. Why is it so complex and complicated?
It's a little, it's a sort of new type of right. It's a new type of property right, if you want, which is slightly different to owning a tree or a piece of land. And if you want to, and the idea of the transaction is that you take the carbon in the area, the land, and you sell it to somebody else to keep in the land, which is quite a complex kind of transaction. It's different if you grow something on the land and then you take it off and you go to market and sell it to somebody else. It's different if you buy a house on a land. And so that's why it's slightly complicated, community. And one of the examples of that is here, what you saw. So here last week in the 5 Forum.
Even with Botswana, it's coming out that they want to focus on adaptation than mitigation.
Right.
But I sort of like wanted to understand exactly what is meant by adaptation, because there's so much that you can do to live with certain aspects of the environment, or what can happen in the environment, like increase in temperature, increase in...
Whereas with savanna burning, if the community doesn't do the early dry season burning, you don't get the benefit. So it comes out in May, so the next one should be due in a couple of months. It'll tell you everything you want to know about global taxes and carbon markets and all that sort of stuff. and I've just produced some of the facts and figures here for you because I was going to talk about it. But really, and this is the pricing. This is what I was talking about. This Article 622 agreements which have been signed already, and there's the countries: Tunis, Moldavia, Saudi Arabia, Malawi, Chile, Thailand, blah blah. And this is the countries that are buying them. So you can see that's quite sophisticated and emerging, and this is why we think this is the mechanism which will probably be the most important in the Charles Darwin University, I guess, plays that similar role here for Savanna earning credits. And it's got, like serious community engagement and steering committees, and it works very closely with the Accrediting Foundation Plan Viva, which is used, and then with the Kenyan Forest Service and the Ministry for Gender. Certain amount goes off to here, goes to the community organisation, and another 26% goes then to community benefits and to the other, and to the work teams and the individuals. Very similar to Australia, and that's based on if you work the land, you're entitled to the product of that work. Profit apprendre is French for profiting from your work, from your actions. Then the counterparty will become the owner of the carbon and assist the counterparty apply for the various rights to recognise the abatement and allow for the transfer of the credits calculated in accordance with the contract and pay the entity representing the interest of the landholder the sum calculated. So pretty simple, it's not really a complicated contract. And then you have a schedule which is a bit like the schedule that you would have. I'll share this PowerPoint with you. And, where you outline in a little bit more detail the overall, how the benefits would flow. And it doesn't need to, it's not complicated, percentages like I showed with the PAMICO. But really importantly, you have in that schedule the method to generate the credits, and then they could then package them into ICMOs, which would then go to this holding Savanna company, and then could go down to ICMO receiving countries, Korea and Singapore, and then and this would then pay off all the money from the investors as well as reward the governments and the communities. And so you could take that simple idea of the WAFMA or the pilot sites in Botswana concept and scale it out across the country and then across the area and into the international markets. And so all of this was kind of worked over by the various experts, and I'm not saying it's going to actually happen because there are a lot of issues with each one of these transactions, and as Anna-Cleta said, the Green Climate Fund doesn't move quickly on anything. But what's the key thing, the message away from this, is that Macquarie, who are one of the largest banks in the world, they put this deal together. And so their people looked at the numbers and the figures and looked at the technology and the opportunity.